Hello there and welcome. If you're an introverted small business owner who sometimes struggles to fulfill all the different roles and all the hats that you have to wear in your business, take heart. This conversation with my dear friend, my colleague, and my strengths mentor, Dries Lombaard, will be very helpful. I'd like to say a few words about Dries and then we're going to get started. He is widely regarded as one of the most experienced strengths coaches and consultants in the world. And he's written a book called Launch Your Brilliance. And I'll have his full bio and the link to the book in the write-up. Welcome, Dries. It's such a great pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you, Liesel, as always. Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you. So, Dries, as you know, I am an introvert who has a business. I work with many introverts who either have a business or they're trying to start one, or they want to increase the size or the efficiency or making it work better. And it can be such a challenge for introverts to do this. There are certain areas that they are really, really good at, like relationships and thinking. And some of the other patterns that we often need in business is a little bit lower on the list. So there are things that are easy for us and things that are hard for us. And I am so excited to ask you today, can you help us understand some principles that will work for introverts in business?
Yes, let's talk about this. This is actually a great subject, and I think for both of us, because both of us are also introverts. I think you may be a bit stronger than me, but I live in my head. So for me, this was also a journey that I had to sort out and get to understand in business over many years. And I came across discovering a few principles that I'd like to share with everyone that I think can be very helpful if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner and an introvert, and you have certain things that you find difficult to cope with, or just have questions. And some of what I share you may relate with and others not, because we're all unique, but let's talk about a few key things that we should look at. And I'd like to start with the first one that's actually true for every entrepreneur and every business owner, not only introverts. And that is to clarify your why first. Make very sure about your why. And what do I mean with why? Why? What is the reason behind your business? What is the purpose behind it? What is the vision behind it? What about doing this business will make you get up on the difficult days and get going when times are tough and dark? There must be something that is more important to you for doing this than anything else. And you should know that. You should hold on to that. You should define that, because it's different to each person. You know, business can and often are about profit and money, but it's not for everyone. That's not at all the core of it and the driving force that's strongest with them. There could be many other things, you know. And as I once had a discussion with someone, and we spoke about, okay, you have this business and you're making money. Now what? You're still excited about it? If not, if you get bored, well, then you don't have a deeper why than that, you know, and then you've reached it and it's gone. So the why is something you should really contemplate about, think about, define, write it down, because the why is more important than the what or the how. And people often start at the what and the how. They start at, what am I going to do? Let's do this. And how am I going to do it? But it's not the what and the how that pulls you through. in tough times? It's the why. The why is the sustainable energy. So don't underestimate the power behind the why. Simon Sinek talks a lot about this. If you want to learn about more, just go onto TED or YouTube, look for Simon Sinek on why, and you'll learn some beautiful business insights. And it meant a lot to me to clarify my why. Why am I doing it? And the last thing in terms of the why principle is to make very sure, and this is maybe important for introverts, make sure it's your why and not somebody else's. Make sure it's for your own sake. Because something else about us introverts is we often do something for other people. We're supportive in nature. And we want to support, we want to help. And we can actually be drawn into something that we're not really that, we don't take it as our full identity and what we really want to do. So apart from defining the purpose, the vision, the reason, the why, make sure you own it. Make sure it's yours. Make sure there's something in it that you gave birth to. Make it unique in a sense. Don't just copy and paste. Don't just adapt a great idea. There's many great ideas, but if you have a great idea, give it a twist and an edge that defines you. Because that's as part of the why. Think about it. If it's really yours, then it becomes really worth pulling through and fighting for. It becomes worth doing it because it's something that's very, very close to your heart. If it's something that many people do, and then you can give up on it easily because you can just go, oh, I'll do something else. So I think the why and the identification, the clarity around it, and the ownership of it, Liesel, that's a very important part. And maybe I can just also say that don't give yourself time here, because sometimes defining the true why can be a journey. You start off and there's something there. I kind of have a sense this has been true for both me and you. We started off on this coaching/consulting journey. And if you think back to the early days, we did not know what we know now in terms of how you're going to define it. When you started off, Liesel, I'm pretty sure you didn't know you're going to specialize in being a coach for sensitive introverts, right? You don't know that. You don't know even the words is never not clear. And the same for me. When I started off, I did not really know that I'm going to specialize in a strength-based approach using positive psychology as I do. It's part of a journey.
Yeah.
But if you don't make it your task and mission to find your identity and your niche in it, you may set your foot on a wrong way that will take you on a journey in the wrong direction. So be true to yourself in that. Very important. So I want to start with that one first. Does that make sense to you, Liesel?
Absolutely sense, Dries, and I agree with so many points of yours. Like yesterday, I hit a bit of a snag where I just felt low in energy and like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this business anymore. It's too hard. It's full of effort. And the instant this morning, I was on a session with somebody, and in that instant, I reconnected with my big why. It's like, man, this is of course why I'm doing it. Yes, now I've got all my energy back. So it just works not only on a, let's say, philosophical, theoretical level, but practically. It connects us with all the energy available to us when we go, that's
Absolutely.
why. So it's such a practical thing.
Yeah. And that leads me to the second principle, which I just want to say that you must acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge yourself and celebrate yourself. So in order to acknowledge yourself, you should understand three things. Well, more than that, but I want to focus on three things. You should understand your energy. What energizes you? What are your strengths? What drives you and what drains you? But more than that, understanding your energy ties directly into you being an introvert. Okay, because introverts find their energy mostly within themselves and being alone or being with a few selected people, much more than finding it out there among the crowds and in public spaces. So make sure you get to acknowledge your own energy and embrace it, love it. It's more than just acceptance. I'm not just talking about, oh, I need to accept that I'm an introvert. No, you should love the fact that you're an introvert. You should love it. You should celebrate it. I mean, what's better than time alone, right? I mean, we should celebrate that, going for a walk on your own, sitting down with a book on your own, or sitting down with someone you love in total silence and being comfortable, not having to talk, not having to go out. Those things energize you, and you should understand and acknowledge and love it. You know, society actually brands the world around extroverts more than introverts, because they talk about a great night out. What about a great night in? You know, why is it always a great night out? Why not a great night in? You know, just stay home. I mean, what's wrong with that? So, and I'm talking about, you know, the fact of acknowledging who you are. So first acknowledge your energy, then acknowledge your needs. That's part of your strengths. But what do you need? Who do you need? When do you need it? Because your needs will tie directly into the way you do business and when you do business and with whom you'll do business. I'll say a bit of that more in a moment, but you should really need to acknowledge and celebrate what you need, and make it very practical. If you need to work specific hours and not others, then make it a value and do it. If you need to work with specific people in specific areas and not with others, then fine. Acknowledge it and do it. So it's part of that whole taking the why from something out there and bringing into acknowledgement of how do I fit into the why, and who am I, what energizes me, what do I need. Very important, both of that. And then the third is to understand your abilities, your skills. Don't overestimate or underestimate yourself. And oftentimes you've got this, but it seems so daunting. It seems so out there. It seems so, as someone said, Elon Musky. No, I mean, you don't have to be Elon Musk to have your own successful business, you know. It can just be you and immensely successful and so, but it's tied to your abilities. It's tied to your skills and experience. So be true and honest about what you can and can't do, your skills, and also about your experience. Know if you know more experience or if you have enough. It's a very important part to know where you back yourself. And I think one thing about this, about abilities and acknowledging yourself, why introverts sometimes struggle with that is because we are less in contact with people that give us this kind of feedback than others. We often only have ourselves for feedback, or one or two people that's so close to us that we start to think, yeah, but of course you'll say this. I mean, you live with me. So I want to know objectively what this is. So you need to go through really a process to be objective about this. And maybe one of those aspects in terms of this acknowledging self, a great support for that is a coaching journey. You know, you've got coaches out there that's really very good at helping you understand your abilities and yourself, going on a bit of an awareness journey with that. So, but it's very important to do that. And then the last aspect here in acknowledging the self is to give yourself the most important resource of all, and that is the resource of time. You should give yourself time in the small chunks, you know, time to get something done this morning, this evening, whatever, but also time in the medium or long term. Watch out for pressure that force yourself into a performance mindset in business, that I must get it done by now or by then. Now, I know, I've been through this and I'm still in it, that we're often forced by realities like finances, etc. And we do have deadlines and we do have time constraints. A business should have a time where it starts to bring in profit. Otherwise, it's not, you know, feasible to continue. I get that. But behind all those realities, you must understand that you need time within it and grace with yourself in a process. And again, this may be something that you may consider getting advice and time with. What do I need to focus on when? And how can I get this into place? So part is an inward journey and part is a very realistic timeline, if I can put it that way. The acknowledgement of self. Yeah. Right. Then let's get even more practical. The third principle, I'm going to state this in a bit of a funny way. I believe for introverts, you must choose others rather than being chosen. What I mean with that is you should stay in charge of your dream. And therefore, you should select partners or collaborators or staff, if that is, very carefully. You should choose people to work with you, to collaborate with you in your time and on your boundaries and your principles, rather than being chosen. Because here's what happens. And I'm not talking down on extroverts, but extroverts, they're very good at spotting an opportunity. Yeah. They're very good at winning others over and influencing. And often, not to say they have a bad intention, but often they can target the introverts because they see you come with a great potential here, a great business case, a great opportunity. But they also see you struggling. And this can even be, you can become prey to people with wrong intentions out there. And they can move in with the greatest stories and the greatest offer of support for you and the greatest vision. They will tell you that with them on board, they'll turn your business into this amazing thing. And you'll do it fast. You must just trust them and all of that. And remember, they're masters at persuasion, right? Be very, very careful not to sell your soul, sell your dream. It's much better at the time when you're ready to move out and choose someone. And something that I've started to be much more attentive to, because I've been through a couple of tough lessons on this specific one. And I've seen that I am I'm less likely to engage when someone contacts me for a kind of a partnering or whatever. When they get into I'll listen, make no mistake. I'll listen and I'll get through that, but I'll be like, I'm not looking for that at this stage. I'm not seeking for this. So I must be just very careful not to divide my focus and attention. Because this may sound awesome, and this may well be an opportunity from the universe, but I must make very, very sure it is, and not something else. And in order to do that, make trust essential. Trust someone first and foremost. And trust needs time. So if someone wants to push you into something and you feel, I don't have time, stay away. I can honestly say, stay away. Don't compromise on time and trust, because the price you pay, not only financially, but emotionally and all of that, can be a very, very expensive price to pay. And be clear on your values. What do you value? So that when you reach out, when you connect or get to know someone, and there's no intention, and this is often the best collaboratings or partnerships happen, that two people connect for some reason, and they start journeying in the same direction, but not one of them's got an intent.
Yes.
And then at some stage, they kind of look at each other and they go like, oh, you're still here. Oh, yeah, you're still here. Maybe we've got something in common here. Maybe we could do something together in time, slowly. Let's try it once and try it and see. And then go on. You see what's in there. Patience from both ends. But if one of the two parties are like always pushing and pulling you closer and your introversion starts feeling evaded and you feel you're drained, make an early decision to cut it off. And you will see now where I'm going. I'm not saying go it alone at all. We're going to look at that as well. I'm just saying be careful and rather be true to trust and values, and rather choose others than being chosen. I've seen that when I followed this path of giving something time to grow, and those people, those partners, collaborators, colleagues, they're all still in my life, and it's so comfortable. But those where I felt it's like an invasion, it's like this, none of them is in my life anymore, because either they got what they wanted and moved out, or it didn't work out and there was hurt on both sides, or it didn't work out and nobody's hurt, but it just wasn't a great fit because we tried to push something and squeeze it out of something that's not made for it to be. And you see the thing with introverts is we're not at all good with hit and runs. We don't do hit and run well. We don't do the short sprints well. We kind of masters of the marathon, masters of the long distance. We want to stay in the game for a long time, and that's kind of more the trait with us. And therefore, you should be careful who you let on board and who you employ as well. Rather than take time in interviewing and selecting people carefully. The sudden appearance of someone messaging you from LinkedIn with a lot of promises, and so don't cut it off. But just be careful.
I love that, Dries. It's just such a good confirmation for me, is about trusting what's inside, not being pushed by what comes from the outside, because it's true, we need time to consider things carefully, and we need to build the trust relationship, and in those kind of things is where our juice lies. And honoring that just feels really, really good. We don't need to abide by the world's rules that says, come on, business needs to chop. That isn't what feels good to me at all.
Yeah. And think about it, often we go into business for ourselves, we start something exactly because we want to create a space where we can breathe and live and work in a way that fits us better than out there.
Yeah.
So don't sacrifice that. Keep on to it. Then the next principle, Liesel, the fourth one, is very similar actually to choose others rather than being chosen, but it's more on collaboration and outsourcing in terms of services and so on, a business and say accounting or whatever you have to do. So let's call it to collaborate and outsource. Collaborate at a professional distance. I really believe this is very important. Collaboration and outsourcing is essential. But the best way to do it is to keep it professional. So what do I mean with this? I mean that sometimes your business or you need help. You need help, say, in the books or with tax or with marketing or with design, web design, or whatever. You're a specialist in something and you've got something there, but there's a lot of other things that need to happen. Now, I totally get it that at the start, because I've been there as well, we make use of friends and family to help us. This friend's daughter is great at web design. She'll help us with this, and that guy knows someone. And of course, it keeps the cost down and all of that. I don't want to say that's wrong. I want to say that's a good start. But let's look at it when the business now starting to find its feet and you can afford people, and you're at a level where you can now become a bit more professional in the way you do things. Then collaboration, I believe, is essential. It goes back to your abilities. When something is out of your ability or focus or experience, you need to outsource or collaborate. And it's essential, but again, on your terms. And if you outsource, my advice here is to, and this is tough, especially for relational people, but rather do it to professionals than to family or friends. Honestly, if for instance, I'm not talking about a quick, say, legal advice. You need legal advice for your business, but it's kind of a one-liner. It's one sentence in a contract, and you have a family member or a friend that's a lawyer. You can phone them up and they can tell you. I'm not talking about that. But say you need someone to get involved legally in your business for the medium or longer term. There may be exceptions in the rule that I'm laying down now, but in most cases, rather go the professional route and look for somebody that specializes in your industry and area, and somebody who's in your location that you can get to and meet easily, and that you don't know at all, where you have an introductory first meeting, and where you can set down your expectations, your needs, your values, your outcomes, and you make it a professional deal like, here's what I want, here's what I pay you, you give this, I pay you, and there's no emotional baggage in between. There's nothing in between of life happening and now a friend is helping you with your taxes, but now the friend got ill and this and that, and now your books are late, and now you feel like, and I so understand or whatever. Because you see, if it's collaborating at a professional distance and that person gets ill, they have to outsource to someone to get your books done. No questions asked. They're not even going to tell you that they're ill. They're just going to get it there on time. And that keeps all the pressure off you. You don't get involved in the emotional part of accommodation and needing to ask for something more or something that's wrong. They send something back, they do a design for you, it comes back, and you look at something like, I don't like that. But now immediately, part of who you are as an introvert and sensitive as well, you go like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'm just going to leave it there. But now, that nagging feeling, every time you see it, you've got that nagging on that thing that need to be changed. It builds resentment, and it's not healthy. Whereas if it's professional, it just takes an email that you send back and say, listen, I don't really like this part. Can you just look at that? And, you know, as we said, I'm not going to sign off on it until I'm satisfied. And they go, sure, I'll change it. And they change it and you sign off.
Yeah.
You know, Liesel, there's such a lot of energy, emotional energy, that gets wasted when we're drawn into these relations that we should actually separate between private and professional, if we can. So I just want to be clear. I'm not saying don't make use of friends or family. I do, but I'm selective in when and how. I've got a great friend who's a lawyer. And I'm not going to phone my lawyer for advice when it's a one-liner, 5-minute question, because he's going to send me a bill. And why? I'm phoning my friend, and my friend's too, he helps me, but my friend is not my lawyer. He will help me with advice. But my legal stuff is at a professional lawyer who's not my friend. He's my lawyer. And therefore, I can be direct and clear and so with him and no strings attached, and I pay him gladly, and he gives me a service gladly, but there's no ifs or buts. But you can still have other relations, have other things, and people support you now and then, give a bit of advice, do a favor for you here and whatever. But in business, I think especially for introverts, we do not like conflict. We do not like emotional baggage. We don't like to carry things along. And for that reason, at an early stage, set a professional distance by collaborating at a professional distance. And then communicate early and clear. Set your expectations early and set it clearly. Remember, if it's professional, you're not doing anybody a favor, and you're not there to make them feel good. They're doing business with you, and you're doing business with them. That's it. Know that boundary well. I think this is a crucial principle, this fourth one.
I can't tell you how crucial from personal painful experience. I'm sure you've had the same, as because we are relational people, we tend to find it really, really hard to set boundaries and to if we feel like we're going to step on people's toes. And of course, I'm generalizing, not every introvert is like this, but the ones I tend to work with are. And so it will keep the messy parts to a minimum if we don't mix family, friends with business, because for an introvert, business caring, sensitive introverts already have a challenge marrying the idea of a business and making profit from helping people. Helping people is something they would have done anyway for free. But now they need to make money with this thing. And then adding the complexity of adding all these emotional things that could just add to the messiness. I think this is a fantastic.
Even more so that as soon as you can afford it, that professional outsourcing and professional collaboration is so important, because you need somebody to have your back on certain matters, because you don't want to get involved in the messy stuff, and it's so nice to just know my books are taken care of because I pay someone to do it, and I trust them, and they give a great service, and it's taken care of, and I'm not pressured by that. And it's somebody that I trust so much. They know they'll call me up and say, listen, what's going on here? Let's talk about how I can maybe give you advice to do it better. I know there's no intention of them of intruding into my space. They're supporting me with advice and so on. And on all levels, I really think this professional distance is very important, because we need to collaborate. We really need to. And I don't think we really need to worry that this is going to alienate us from anyone, because if you have that distance, you're actually closer and clearer with the people that's close to you, because they're not involved in that. So it becomes so much easier to maintain the relations there.
And you have the available emotional energy free for the people that you really want to spend that on.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the final one is actually a summary, and you mentioned the word, but I think for introverts in business, this is the important one: boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. To understand boundaries. What is a healthy boundary? When to say no, and being allowed to say no. And to understand that boundaries can be healthy. They don't need to be a line in the sand that can blow away with the wind. That's not a healthy boundary. That's an unclear boundary, and it probably will blow away with the wind. But it need not be the contrasting opposite, like a prison wall that you can't even see a door to go through with some electric fencing, because that pushes everybody away. That's also an unhealthy boundary. The image of a healthy boundary in an image is like a fence, like a picket fence that's clearly saying, well, this is where my property starts and yours end. And there's a gate, but can you see that the gate can close and can even lock? And it's got a bell, so it tells you something. Ask permission before you enter into my space. And then if you enter, you're welcome, you know. But the boundary between things like work and home, especially in these times that most of us work from home, is so important. For introverts, even more. Because we don't want to go out, do we? No.
Right.
So we stay in. So what do? We work. And we don't have plans for the weekend. So what do? We work. No, we should not be doing that. I can tell you out of very, very experience, it's not nice. You know, if you go down that route and you just destroy yourself and destroy your health and your mind. And so it's a difficult route and a difficult place to come back from. So you need to have and protect your boundaries between work and friends, or work and family. It's not only a spatial thing, it's a relational thing as well, to protect that and to understand that no, the word no, is a complete sentence. You don't have to qualify a no. You can just say no. It's not no because, no, but let me explain. Sure, if you want to explain, you can explain, but you can just say no. And if someone says why, you say, because, no. It's no. No. Don't you understand? What part of no don't you understand? Protect yourself. And I can maybe, if you haven't heard or studied or read up a bit on boundaries, just go search the internet a bit. There's a lot of things on boundaries, you know, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, even mental boundaries. Boundaries in terms of time. What do we allow? Information. When do we start blocking information on social media and stuff? We need boundaries for that in our lives. So in business, again, to have clear boundaries to protect ourselves. There's something interesting that I've seen happening is the more you increase your capacity, say for work, you've got your business, but the more you open up to work, you must remember that the doors you open so wide to be available always and to work all the time, it's not just the energizing stuff that enters.
Oh.
You must know that. It's the messy stuff that also enters. It's the draining stuff that also enters through those open doors. So you get more busy, but not more busy with energy only. You get now flooded with a lot of things to carry and muddy water to swim in and stuff you should deal with without the rest, without the break, without the time alone, without the withdrawal that you so need as an introvert to just breathe and be on your own. So be selfish on that, protect it, you know.
Yeah.
To pace yourself is an extremely important aspect in business. And I believe for introverts, honestly, even more so, simply because we are so content with staying on our own, staying engaged with work, etc. You know, we don't live for that weekend out with the buddies type of thing, which means we sacrifice ourselves in a way. So we have a red flag there, a bit of a danger in that. And if you can get some accountability on this, get people close to you, love you and support you, family or friends, just to check up on you. I have that now. I have family that now is much more diligent, but also I gave them permission to be very strict with me, and believe me, they are, and I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not nice when your 20-year-old daughter walks in and shut your computer in front of you and say, Dad, that's enough. And I feel like you can't do that, but thank you.
You're saving me from myself.
Exactly. Yeah, so Liesel, yeah, the boundaries aspect. So I think just in summary, if I can just look at these few principles to do business. First, your why, right? Start with the why and clarify that. Make sure you know why and that it's yours. It's very important. Is it your why? It should be yours. Then acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge your energy, your needs, your abilities, your time. Then stay in charge in the way of choosing others rather than being chosen. Stay in charge of your dream. Make trust essential. Be true to that. Don't be bullied into anything. Don't be overpowered. Don't be won over. Keep it clear there. And then collaborate at a professional distance. Get professional people involved as soon as you can, and keep it professional. That protects you and that supports you. And to summarize all of it, get to know and understand your boundaries, your rhythm, the need to say no, the need to pace yourself, and protect your own boundaries. Obviously, Liesel, I think there's a lot of more we can talk about, but to me, if I must bring it down to 5 essentials, this is what I would say comes from lessons that I've learned in business, and that I find at this stage serves me very well.
Dries, fantastic principles to boil it down to these, 5 things that we can sort of highlight and say, is this present for me? Is this present for me? Is this present for me? And you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's important. We just I'll just bring this in, is it's a process. All of what you talked about now doesn't happen like in one day. Okay, like I've ticked all the boxes and we keep learning more about it as we maybe make mistakes or we run into a bit of an obstacle. Like, oh dear, I forgot my boundaries in this case. So let me just go back there. Introverts often have trouble saying no, or let's say the ones with lots of relational talents, right? They harmony and empathy and feeling for other people, and so have challenge with the boundaries. So it's a process. We need to learn how to do it. It can be a skill that we can learn, and there's emotional drivers underneath or why it's sometimes hard, and it may keep being hard, but just stick to that resolve, because like Dries says, it just has better results in the long run for our energy and because we do want our business to survive. And if these things are not in place, neither us nor our business is going to make it. So I think these are, introverts love the long-term journey, and these things I think will keep us in the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Let's learn from each other and from each other's successes and mistakes.
Yes.
And take it from there. And there's no reason at all that you cannot be successful as an introvert. You know, there's people out there that can do the marketing for you and the stuff for you, and that can support you in that. If you find your why, stick to it, protect it, work on it, and it's an immense, satisfying journey to be a business owner. It's very, very satisfying.
Yeah, indeed. And Dries, thank you so much for these absolutely wonderful, I would call it wise principles, helping us to understand what's going to help us to succeed in the long run, and being a pleasurable, enjoyable journey for any introvert. Thank you so much, Dries, and I'll have all the write-up below the post. So thank you for joining us today, our listeners and everybody who's here learning from Dries.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.